Today we're talking about a hot topic in the travel community, internet. Here we go. So we get this question all the time. Matt, how do you guys get fast, reliable internet on the go? Well, the question's actually more simple than you'd think. There's a lot of AT&T type cell phone carriers out there that actually serve unlimited data on hotspot plans. Now, this is the way we do it. I know it won't work for everybody. There's been a lot of people out there that try different things, try different techniques, and you really have to look because a lot of them will meter you, they'll throttle you, even though you're paying for unlimited internet. So this is our benchmark test. We're running a Netgear MR5100, which I'll show you guys here in a minute. This is about average what we get. It's around 100 megabytes per second. Sometimes lower, sometimes higher. When you're over cell service, it dips down due to the weather and stuff like that. But on average, this is what we get. Latency is usually fairly low. 1 ms is almost unheard of. Usually we're getting about 30 to 40 ms. So next we'll take a look at our setup. I'll show you guys our hardware, what plan we're on, and where we're going from there.
So this is our device right here. This is a Netgear Nighthawk MR5100. We bought the device itself off of eBay. I think we paid around $350 for it, but it's very simple. It does come with Wi-Fi integrated. However, we hook ours up to a Netgear Orbi Wi-Fi mesh system just to kind of help it get around the camper better. The Wi-Fi that this puts off is not near as good as your at-home residential Wi-Fi. So it's very simple though. You know, you take your cover off the back, you have your battery. Underneath the battery, you have your SIM card and your IMEI number and stuff that they would need with AT&T. So we have this on a Firstnet data plan. It's an unlimited data plan for $40 a month is what we pay. Right here you have your Ethernet hookup, which we hook to our Wi-Fi mesh router system. And then in here as well are two TS9 primary and secondary antenna holders right here and right here. Now, we hook ours up. Our 2021 Keystone Montana 3763 BP came standard with the Winegard 2.0 system mounted on the roof. So we use these primary and secondary antennas and a long TS9 cable, which I'll show you guys here in a minute, to tie into that to be able to get AT&T. Now, that being said, you can only get AT&T on the Winegard system. And you ask, well, why is that? And essentially that's because Winegard uses AT&T for all of their plans that they sell on their routers. So they have the antenna locked out to just AT&T towers. It also has a whole bunch of technical stuff that I'm not going to get into about GSM networks and how they work. But essentially this is our router. It receives the signals and then ties into the antenna, and that's just a basic overview of the router. So for our TS9 cable system, we have that tied in. We ran this cord across to the connector because of course they put the connector right in the middle of the kitchen right here. So we have that tied in right there, as you can see. That is where it connects. Your green and your yellow on these Winegard systems will be for your primary and secondary cellular data. In there is also a red connector. However, we don't use that because that's for Wi-Fi extension if you choose to get the router through Winegard. The last bit here I want to show you guys real fast is our Netgear Orbi Wi-Fi mesh system. Now we have an identical puck that looks just like this in the back of our camper that actually sends the signal down to it. This just really establishes a secure, good Wi-Fi connection throughout the whole camper and even outside of the camper. The big problem with the MR5100s, the Wi-Fi, like I said earlier, is not as good that comes inside of them. So we wanted an extra mesh system to ensure that that connection gets in. Also, it gives the added ability to run a hardwire to our desktop computer we have back here. That way we have a stronger connection, if we're working on projects or homework or anything like that. So this is just kind of a quick view of the whole setup. hooked up together. So we have our Orbi Wi-Fi router that sends the signal across the camper that gives us a good connection. We have our Netgear MR5100 hooked up to two TS9 cables, a primary and a secondary, that boost the signal. Now you'll notice, if you can see it here on the screen, that we get a full bar of 4G LTE, which gets us that reliable signal. Now, with these primary and secondary antennas hooked up, if you're running AT&T on the Winegard system, you actually get very good signal. We've had several scenarios where our phones would only have 1 or 2 bars, and this thing has never not had full bars. Now, it will impact your service quality depending on what kind of connection you have. We have 4G LTE here, which we pull about 100 megabytes per second out of. However, we do get 5G on this, but the 5G connection is not as strong. It's AT&T's extended network, and typically we only get about 20 to 30 megabytes per second off of it. This is your charging cable right here, which we always leave hooked up, even though it has a battery in it, just to ensure it's always charged. This is our Ethernet cable, which runs to our Orbi system. And lastly here, this is our Ethernet cable that runs to our desktop.
So this right here is our FirstNet network here. Like I said, we're running the $39.99 monthly unlimited talk, text, and data. Now, the reason why we do qualify for that is due to Courtney being a nurse. She actually qualifies to get on the FirstNet plan for emergency room nurses. Now, that may vary between nursing professions. I'm not entirely sure. All AT&T asked for was just her identification for her job when we started and signed up, and ever since then, that's been about it. Now, I'm going to run one more benchmark for you guys here with the setup that we have. Like I said, on a rough advantage, we get about 100 to 120 megabytes per second. It's all depending on the weather. The ping can vary a lot. It really depends on what it's like outside. It depends on how far you are from the connection point, stuff like that. So as you can see, we're getting, today we're going to get about 184, 186, which is really good on the download. And we average about 17 to 20 usually on the upload. As far as the connection, it's pretty good. We've benchmarked it both without and with the Winegard antenna. On average, we get a better connection with the antenna hooked up than we do without. I think a lot of that just has to do with the signal and the boost. So that's just kind of a brief overview of our setup. I realize that it won't work for everybody. Not everybody will qualify for FirstNet, but you do get the same quality of service with regular AT&T Unlimited as well. One thing you always should watch out for is just making sure you're not getting metered. If you ever have downgraded service, we've had to contact AT&T before, and they've definitely resolved it for us in the past. Well, guys, I really appreciate you tuning in and taking a look at how we get fast, reliable internet on the go. Like I said, this won't work for everybody, but I hope that it is helpful in your guys' decision to look at more options. I know that Starlink is possibly coming out with mobile internet. That's definitely something we'll do a post on, and we're going to definitely benchmark it and test it and give it a good old try when it gets in. Once again, guys, thanks for tuning in today. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe for more information on RV traveling and tips. Thank you.